Sounding very clear.
Yeah, it didn't sound very clear on last week's show. I was listening to it on the way down this week and realised I was quite so warbly.
Last week I think I noticed that when I was doing the edit, it wasn't as good as it is now.
Yeah, odd.
But it's sounding very clear now. Let's open this new window. Right, the stream is live. So, good evening, chat room. We were ready before we were.
Yeah, they're very eager tonight.
Right, so the stream is going. Good evening, Gary.
Good evening, Ian.
We've no Jason tonight.
No, I don't know. What's he off to tonight doing? I know he's joined the queue for the Apple Watch.
Exactly, that's what he's done. He's sold his house.
Yeah.
And he's getting...
And his car. And his children.
That's right. And he's getting himself a gold Apple Watch.
Yeah, I know.
How many Apple Watch? How many Lumia 625s can you get for an Apple Watch?
Someone did do the calculation how many gold pebbles you could get for one gold Apple Watch, but it was scary.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, so we can talk about that tonight. We can talk about the Apple Watch and the new MacBook, which interestingly haven't been heaped in praise as much as they perhaps have done in the past. Maybe a slight change in the perception from the tech press to kind of noticed.
Yeah, I think so. Well, certainly the watch. I think that the MacBook got a little bit more praise than the watch did, but we'll see.
Yeah, so we can talk about that. We can talk about, because I was so confident last week, about the new build of Windows 10.
Yes, we can. But which new build of Windows 10? Or what new build?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So where's our build of Windows 10? We can talk about a major UK app coming to Windows Phone first before other platforms.
Yeah.
And we've got a bit of Microsoft Band stuff and some Android TV stuff and VLC. So we should have quite a busy show this week. We could start with the Apple stuff. So this Apple announced, well, it was kind of a long keynote actually. They had a lot of stuff prior to the watch, which is what the announcement was primarily focused on. But they did they did have a new MacBook, which, well, like you, I mean, it's a nice device, a beautiful device, but interesting, the gap between sort of the desirability of a MacBook Air, say, from a few years ago compared to what was around on the PC side of things a few years ago, compared to now what's around on the PC side compared to the Mac. There's been a big change, and the gap is much closer now. In fact, in some ways, the PC market has got ahead a little bit.
Yeah, I think obviously I think that's we saw the HP thing last week. The Surface Pro 3 has taken a lot of market up. And of course, this MacBook, it isn't a MacBook Air replacement, is it?
No,
it's a Core M processor, so it's a little bit lacking in grunt compared to the MacBook Air. I mean, it's a nice looking thing. It's a lump of gold. It's not bad. It's a cheaper lump of gold than the watches. So.
Yeah. But yeah, there's been. But what I was kind of saying about the sort of the tech press is, I mean, while everybody was, a lot of the tech press was very excited by the MacBook, there were a lot of people immediately comparing it with the Surface and the HPs, and straight away. And I think The Verge has done a post, didn't they call it the MacBook Meh or whatever?
Yeah.
And compared it with, and a lot of, and the Surface is actually thinner, although when you have the keyboard, I think it's a couple of millimeters thicker. But certainly, it's not the vast difference that there was a few years ago. But a decent enough looking device, but not cheap by any means either.
No, not at all. So, I mean, will you be rushing out to buy one?
No, I think I'll be sticking with my Surface Pro 3.
Yeah, I think that's the view I'd take as well. I mean, I certainly, if I was in the market for a suitable, super portable, solid, rugged device, that might be something I'd look at. I mean, I like Core M chips. I think they have something going for them, but I'm still a bit. It's not something I'm going to rush out and buy.
I mean, when I went from what did I have, a HP tablet at the time, sort of take a vertible tablet to the MacBook Air. There was such a difference between the weight and the styling and everything else that it felt like you were changing from a Stone Age machine to a modern machine when I went to the MacBook Air, and that was a few years ago. But I don't think now, if you went from a Surface Pro 3 to one of those, you'd see that much difference. The screen res is more or less the same, and the specs are more or less the same. I know the Core M processor is not a direct like for like, but apart from that, it does look very much the same. And there isn't that vast leap. But like you said, if you're in an Apple, if you're in the Apple world and like you have to have a Mac for developing, then it probably is a good machine. I don't know whether it's got enough grunting for the developer side that you need.
It might make a decent build server. I mean, if you're not trying to do all the graphics and everything on it. I mean, Core M's good. I mean, we mentioned this with the IFA commentary. The Core M processors are as good as, are better than top of the range processors from 3 years ago. So, a 3-year-old MacBook Air is perfectly capable of running as a build server or running the Xcode. So, I'm sure it will be up to the task.
Yeah, but gold as well.
Yes, very sparkly.
Yeah, it matches the phones, doesn't it? I mean, as we always say, Apple do make great hardware, and that is no exception. They've really packed it in there, but you do pay a premium for it.
You do.
And I think the other main difference for me is from the time I got mine, it was Windows 7 was still the operating system around, and I was kind of just bored with that Windows 7 style OS, and Windows 8 and now 8.1 and Windows 10 has changed anything. I prefer to use that now. Interesting, my kids use a Mac at school for some of the music stuff, and they were saying that it's really hard to use that Mac. Windows 8 is so much simpler to find everything. It just shows you, doesn't it, of what people have complained about Windows 8 being difficult to find things around, but it's what you're used to, what where you start from essentially.
It certainly is, yeah, that's definitely true.
But anyway, nice devices. So on the watch side, what as a Pebble user, what do you think of the watch?
Well, I'm certainly not going to spend £10,000 on one. I mean, I think the watch has got a lot going for it in lots of ways. If you're an iOS user, it's going to be very tightly integrated into the operating system, and it's got a lot of nice apps. It's got a lot of clever stuff on there. But I question the use of a watch which doesn't turn on until you move it, and it can only be used for a certain amount of time at a time, and has 18 hours battery life. That's just, to me, that's not a watch. It might be a secondary display for your device, but it's not a watch. Yeah,
it's interesting. I mean, this week they just showed more of it, and we've already seen the initial keynote, but it does exactly seem to be an extension of the phone and running apps on there, and for like the Instagram is a separate app in its own right, really, isn't it? Whereas the Pebble, Android Wear, and Microsoft Band have took the approach that it's more about notifications and things that you need to instantly access rather than apps.
Yeah, I guess the current Pebble has got quite a lot of apps on, and there is an app-centric feel to that. Although obviously notifications are the main thrust of it. Obviously with the Pebble Time, they've got this new timeline thing, which will be very much a notification and calendar-based look at thing, and a more watch-like approach, I guess. I've never been that much of a fan of what I've seen of the Apple Watch interface. I love the color of it. I love the brightness of the screen and all that, but there's too much of a cost to pay for that. I mean, I really would like a Pebble with a higher resolution, but I understand if I have that, I'm going to have a trade-off for battery life. And for me, if I'm going to use it for monitoring sleep and a lot of the stuff I do, and long traveling, which is the key thing for me, is I don't have to remember to pack a charger when I'm going away for a few days. So I'm going to have to take it off, put it on this cumbersome stand thing they've got, and charge it up overnight. And that to me is, I know a lot of people say, well, I charge my phone already, so I can charge my watch. But again, I come back to the point: if you're charging it every night, it's not a phone, it's not a watch, it's just an extension of your phone. I don't know. I mean, it's not for me. I certainly will say that.
But with the Band, I've got into the habit of sort of there's two ways I tend to charge mine. I mean, the Band gets 2 days charge, but and it's very fast on charging as well. You get to 80% in less than an hour.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's important as well. Actually, we've not really got any details on how quickly the Apple Watch will charge.
yeah, because you want to. That's the key on the go. Because what I found, if I know I'm going to be in the office, I tend to just charge it while I'm sat at the desk, and then put it on when it's fully charged. Maybe at the weekend or whatever, when I just get up, I stick it on charge before I go out, and an hour is well enough charge then till the following day anyway. So even if you only got a relatively short period of time before you go out, it's got enough charge to get you through the day anyway. So I find the charging works quite well. I mean, the other thing you could do is obviously charge it overnight, but I do like the sleep tracking thing, and I think that's the other thing, I suppose, with the Apple Watch. It does look like I've never been that comfortable wearing a watch while sleeping. I wear the band because I like the tracking, but it looks quite, I don't know, I'd be a bit, it's delicate when you're sleeping with it. I don't know, but I think you'll get used to it. But anyway, if you've got to charge it for overnight anyway, you're not going to get that sleep tracking.
Yeah, true.
But as a lot of these things with Apple devices, you really don't. I think the keynotes don't always really show of how well you can integrate it into your life until you start using it.
Yeah, indeed. No, and I'm always worried the fact that I was very on the iPad when it was first released. I had to eat my words. So at the moment, I can't ever see me buying an Apple Watch, other than the fact I'm probably going to have to for development, because there's a couple of companies out there who are Apple partners who also I develop for. So it's likely I'm going to have to get one for that. But it's not something I would go out and rush out and buy myself.
Yeah, so you're going to be buying that gold one, are you?
No, definitely not. I mean, I think also the interesting thing on the pricing, because I think it's got the base model's $299, which is sort of like the plasticky one, not even the stainless steel. So you start comparing that with the prices for Pebble. I mean, if you look at the current Pebble, which is sub £100 at the moment, you can get an awful lot of Pebbles for one price of one Apple Watch.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think the base price is just about sort of affordable price, but the premium ones, I mean, are expensive. But I'm probably not in the market for buying a £10,000 watch anyway. Yeah. So, but I did see a few people kind of saying that if you were in the market for a £10,000 watch, maybe you want to get yourself a premium watch. You've saved up all your life for a premium watch. You buy yourself a Rolex or something like that. You're going to keep that for a long time. Yeah. Maybe a family heirloom eventually, but an Apple Watch, it's by next year when they bring out the Apple Watch 2, it's going to be like my stack of Surfaces behind me, on the shelf.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, people did buy the gold iPhone, so I can't say that nobody will buy the gold iWatches. I'm sure people will buy them just to say they can afford to buy one. I don't know. It's a difficult thing. I did like the fact that someone tweeted that I wish I could remember who this was actually. That the new MacBook was actually an accessory for the watch. It's a charging accessory for the gold Apple Watch.
but I am convinced, having used the Microsoft Band, the benefits of a smartwatch in general, or a device that you wear on your wrist that gives you notifications and different sort of services. I am convinced of that for a lot of people, especially like us. It's definitely a good device. Like with the Pebble, having that extra information saves you getting your phone out of your pocket is definitely a useful feature.
Yeah, definitely indeed.
And obviously, if you get the health information as well, even better. I mean, that's good as well. So there's a lot to be got said for it. And if you were the kind of person like I was a few years ago, who had a MacBook and an iPhone, then this is that natural extension of that ecosystem, and it makes a reasonable device. But it's just, for our way of working, if you're not using an iPhone all the time, then it's probably not the right device. It's interesting, really. I don't think anybody's really found the sweet spot exactly yet. I mean, the Microsoft Band is great, and I love that. But there are still a lot of things it needs to do, and they're not even really on sale properly. So there's a lot of work to be done from Microsoft's side. Android Wear is good in itself, but that doesn't work with Windows Phone. So there's still a potential there for someone to come in and really change the way that they're working and change the whole. Maybe Pebble could be, but no one's got the complete picture yet. It's still, I suppose, a very young market.
It is, yeah. It's it will mature. I mean, this is a first generation Apple product as well. We know how they quickly ramp things up. So I think we could see big changes over the next few years.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that was all the main thing of the keynote, wasn't it? That was the highlights. But and 26th of April or something like that, isn't it? They're available.
Yes. Yeah, something like that. I think it's certainly fairly soon anyway.
One thing we do know, though, there will be a good seller. There's no doubt about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, they'll sell a few million anyway.
Yeah.
What was interesting was that the Pebble pledges had sort of died off leading up to the Apple event, and I guess people were waiting to see what was announced, and they shot up again immediately after the event.
Right. Yeah.
So obviously people were not as impressed with that as they expected to be, and actually then went for the Pebble again. Very interesting stuff, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I said, I am a big fan of the smartwatch or the potential wearable in general. I guess.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of development in that sphere over the next year or so.
Yeah, and I think from a Microsoft point, the band is good. They just need to get it out there. I mean, I think there's a rumor that they're going to be selling through Best Buy potentially in the US.
Yes. Yeah.
And every now and again, you do see some sort of US centric Microsoft sites, Microsoft focused sites always say, "Oh, bands might be in store in the Microsoft store next week or whatever." So you do see the odd ones, but I would like them to see. I think the device has been a good success. They're not left with stacks of on the shelves like they were with the Surface. So maybe ramp up that production and get them out there. Because I see every time I do a post on it, I get 10 questions on Twitter asking me when is it going to be available in the UK.
Yes, probably for me.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, we'll come back to the Microsoft Bank because we've got a few app updates on that. So we'll talk about that and how spectacularly I managed to break mine with my own software. Which
that sounds interesting.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. But one thing I did get since last week is the Denim update from my 1520.
All right. Yep.
But I say get the update. I didn't get the update. Despite it being available on Microsoft's site, they have all the availability for mine's a Hong Kong region phone, and it says it's available, but it wasn't coming through on the update. So last Thursday, I used the Nokia recovery tool, which actually works quite well because what it does, you install the Nokia recovery tool, you plug your phone in, it looks at what version of firmware you should have, and downloads it for you, and it downloads the latest one. So it downloaded the Denim version. So despite it not being available over the air, it is available through the recovery tool. So I installed it through the recovery tool, which did a fairly reasonable job. It did a clean install, obviously, but then used the restore feature, which worked for most things. I think Jason's mentioned his complaints about this before. It doesn't have the save games.
Yes, yeah, indeed.
So I lost my Minecraft world. But must admit it's not the best thing. My kids laughed at it when I showed them what I'd done on Minecraft, so that wasn't too bad. But everything else more or less came back down again, so I was quite pleased with that. But now I've got it. I have to say the camera app is brilliant, absolutely so. The camera performance is superb. So I can do this now while we're talking. So I'm gonna switch my phone off. So it's off now. I hold down the shutter key and I've taken the picture.
That's amazing. Now I've got Denim on my 1020 and it doesn't do that, unfortunately. It hasn't improved the camera app one iota. In fact, I can't actually see any benefits of Denim at the moment, but I'm sure there are some hidden behind the scenes.
It's superb. It's just literally 1, 2, done. That's from cold off to actually having the picture in the camera roll.
I mean, I was doing quite a lot of recording a video today and trying to switch the camera on and off, and it was taking forever to fire up and get ready, and I was missing my shots because it wasn't ready in time, which is very annoying.
I mean, it's so fast now that I mean, even from it's not just actual taking the picture, but just holding the dedicated camera button down opens the camera app immediately. It's super fast now, and I'm really impressed with that how quickly it comes on and is ready to take the picture, and on the pictures on the camera roll. There are some other changes to it as well. You can record in 4K, kind of record video, although it wouldn't record to my SD card for that. It has to record to the local storage, I presume, because the SD card's not fast enough for that.
That's a bit restrictive, really, isn't it? Because 4K's
yes,
it's going to fill your memory up somewhat quickly, isn't it? Can you? I mean, do you think it would record if you had a faster SD card?
I think so. Yeah, but the other thing is, I've not used a lot of space up on this 1520 actually, because everything is going on the SD card. So, that was one good thing about the recovery as well, because my music is on the SD card. All it had to do is re-index it.
Yeah. So
that was quite handy, rather than having to re-download it and then re-index it. So, the other thing, it's got the thing where you can take a video and pick a single still out of that video, so and create a photo from that, which is quite nice. There was another one as well, which is kind of this. It's got this little magic wand on it, which is rich capture, which looks like the sort of the HDR function that you would see on some phones as well, which looked quite good. I'm trying to think what else Denon gave me. Oh, one thing I do like is you can have the now playing on the lock screen. Not exactly how I would want it. I'd like the now playing information on the glance screen. So when I'm in the car and it's on charge, the now playing, the track information was on the glance screen, which would be nice. But it doesn't do that. But it does when you power it on and you're listening to music. You do get the transport controls across the top with the volume, which is quite good. Save you having to touch the volume rocker to do that. I'm trying to think what else you get from Denon. I think that was the main changes, really. I think the device hub has got an update as well.
Oh yeah, there are some extra features on Bluetooth on there, so that's probably something I will find useful, but I haven't looked at it in great detail.
Yeah, but those are the main things that I came across, and yeah, very, very. Anyway, it's worth doing if you've got a 1520 and you either get it over the air, which is the optimal way, so you don't have to set things up again. But if you can't, then you can use the recovery tool, and that does work. But anyway, I'm impressed just from the camera stuff. So it'd be very handy when you're out and about and you just want to quickly take a photo. I mean, it'll be ready to take the photo before you've got it lined. You've got the shot lined up, which isn't the case right before. It used to be a little bit of a delay. Not quite as bad as the 1020, but I think there was on mine before. So got some other changes I found as well, but I don't think this is necessarily Denon. I'm not sure this is across all Windows Phone devices, but the Motion Sensor app, I think this is actually Lumia only, isn't it? The Motion Sense.
Yeah.
Motion Sensor's got an update, or Motion Data it's called, which actually you find in the settings on Windows Phone. Is it now? It always has tracked your activity and your motion, and then you can use something like the Health and Fitness app to track those. But now you can actually go in there, and there's a recent places view. You can press on that, and it shows you a map and shows you where you've been, a bit like you can with the Google Dashboard, where it shows your activities, which is quite nice actually. I quite like that idea. And it also shows you what places, which apps are using the location data or the motion data, and it shows your activity based on. Now, according to the app in the App Store, the update, it said walking, running, cycling, and driving. But on mine, it just has a big blue bar of me walking everywhere. But I didn't walk the 30 miles to work this morning. I did drive them. So. But it's quite a nice little update. It's nice. Quite nice to see where you sort of track where you've been before. So I quite like that. Oh, of course, what it has got is Hey Cortana as well.
Oh yes, yeah. So again, I don't get that on my 1020, but that's.
And we can say Hey Cortana. There you go, and then it's brought Cortana up. So that works quite well. And it's now Googling me talking, and it's now text to speech in me talking and coming up on the screen. But one thing I found with that as well is that doesn't seem to work whenever it's in the car because it's on the Bluetooth.
Oh yeah.
And you've got to trigger the Bluetooth. So that would be the main use of it for me, would be when I'm driving to say, hey Cortana, change, play some music or whatever. But that does work. So I can go, hey Cortana, play me some music, and off it goes. So yeah, but that does work quite well. So I think those were the main changes that I saw. Okay, now what else did we want to talk about? Oh, we had a few app updates last week. A minor change for the Xbox Music app.
Yep, yeah, just some bug fixes, I believe.
Yeah, and they're doing a good job with the user voice of posting the release notes on there.
Yeah, I still wish they'd post them actually on the App Store, but I guess it's actually because they're too long for the App Store, so they don't post them in the App Store. So maybe what they need to do is actually in the app when they put an update out, link to the user voice. That would be quite useful.
Yeah, I quite like it though, because it means the sites that report updates that don't do the research just put various updates, whereas us that do the research can put the full change on because
I see. You want exclusivity, I see. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be even better if they could email me first.
Yeah, okay, we'll get that arranged.
Yeah.
I'll talk to my friend Ellen and get her to email you directly.
But it's good to see them continuing with the updates for that. I mean, I know that they're slowing down the frequency. They were quite frequent last year, but they did announce that they were slowing down the frequency of the updates while they're focusing on Windows 10 development.
It makes a lot of sense, to be honest. If they're focusing on Windows 10, you'd expect them to do so.
Now, what else updates did we have last week? I don't know. We actually talked about this story because it posted just as before we went live. I think actually, Universal Apps coming to the Xbox One.
Yes, so they had the Game Developer Conference last week, and they announced quite a few things, and obviously that was one of them, that they're actually going to have proper support for Xbox One in the Universal app and in the One store as well. So you'll be able to potentially you could buy a game for your Xbox app and have the same game on your phone and on the Windows as well for one price. I think it's likely to work more that way round than buying a game on your Windows phone and getting it for your Xbox, because I can't see the pricing quite working that way. We'll see.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But I think the most interesting thing from our point of view would be the fact that developers like Media Browser, who have a Windows phone and a Windows modern Windows app, can do a universal app, and then they can get that straight onto the Xbox, which is something that they've not been able to do, but someone else like Plex has, because Plex had the contacts within Microsoft to be able to get that app on there. Now, Media Browser will be fair, that it'll be in the store and you can get it there. Because previously they mentioned that this is possible, but it's officially announced now that that's going to be the case. So I think that's going to be really good for the Xbox, because we haven't thought of every app yet, so that you could potentially use on the TV, and some developer will come up with something really clever and stick it on the Xbox, and they'll have a big success with it.
Yeah. I think it's really going to push the developer market anyway. I think that's a great move, because obviously we suddenly have a much wider number of people we can target. With the same app. So yeah, I'm loving that.
Yeah, I think so, and I think the potential for monetizing apps as well is there, because people are used to paying for content, seems to be, especially with the game side of things, and on the Xbox, and getting add-on skins and packs and add-on packs and things like that. So there is a potential to actually to people's expectations to be there, that they can pay for content.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think there's going to be a difficult managing that, where you've got the three different stores all coming to one, managing pricing, because obviously we talk about this quite a lot when it comes to phones. That if you look at the three different phone markets, iPhone, Android, and Windows Phone, that there's a different expectation on how much things cost between those. Android's always free. Apple's always 99 cents or £1, £1.99, but nothing much more than that. With Windows Phone, you can actually push it a little bit. People are prepared to pay a little bit more, and at the moment, I think unlike Xbox, they'll be prepared to pay a little bit more again, but they probably wouldn't be able to pay the same price for a Windows Phone app. So it's going to be an interesting trade-off, and whether you end up going to be having several different varieties of the same app in the store, maybe a universal for phone and tablet, and etc. So I think that there's definitely some interesting moves to be seen there in terms of the store.
Yeah, because if you look at something like Media Browser, I'm just having a look here on this Windows Phone. It's £1.49 from Scott's Fool, our friend Scott on Twitter. Now, on an Xbox, I can imagine you get for the functionality you get with Media Browser, you could probably charge a bit more for that. But like you said, if it's a universal app, you're going to be paying £1.49, and then I'm going to go install it on my phone, my tab, my Surface, and the Xbox.
Yeah, so I mean, you might see someone spending £7, for example, £7.99 for an Xbox app, and they'll be quite happy if they pay for that on their Xbox and they get it for their phone and the Surface. So if they want to buy one for the phone, they're not going to pay £7.99. So even if they get it for the Xbox and the Surface. So I think there's got to be some clever pricing structure there for some of this stuff.
Yeah, but I certainly think that it's going to open up the potential for the Xbox and just the media apps. And you think of all the, we've got like iPlayer already on there and Channel 4, and they've got the big content deals. But it means that the smaller providers can come up with their own with their own apps, but then that gets the side effect of being available on the phone and tablet and PC as well.
Yeah, exactly. I really look, this is a great move. So there's a lot of there was a lot of other stuff at GDC around development boxes and the fact that the current Xbox is going to be available as a development box. So that's great. So you just can use that. So yeah, I think this is a fabulous move.
Yeah. So for developers, did they talk too much about them? How would you actually get started? So someone like you've got an app that's on Windows Phone and you want to put it onto the Xbox. Did they explain how you get started with that?
Not great detail. They did say it's going to be one store, so you'll be able to just submit it to the normal store and mark it as being Xbox compliant, I guess. This is going to have to wait to the Windows 10 app, Universal Apps, for obvious reasons. There's no the single universal app as we were talking about last week.
Yeah.
So this is definitely UAP based, the universal app platform. But yeah, I think it's going to be fairly straightforward to actually do. I don't think it's going to be a difficult thing at all. I think it's literally going to be supporting your app and pushing it across onto Xbox One. Now, what will be interesting to see is if there's any more curation of the Xbox One store than there has been of the Windows Phone store, because it's going to be a nightmare otherwise.
Yeah, because that's something we haven't talked about in a while. Because when I just in the time that I was developing the Flickr app, when I first started, it was very stringent, sort of getting that app through the store, and they wanted to test everything, and you have to have your own Flickr account, and it was a bit of a nightmare getting the app through certification for that. But then the last builds, I've not done any for a while, but the last builds that I did for it towards the end of last year, there was very little verification. Things went through very quickly, and so it seemed to have dropped the standards of testing somewhat.
Yes, yeah, and I think that was deliberate to try and up the number of apps in the store. But what actually happened is we just got loads of rubbish apps, spam apps, as people like to call them, sort of things which are named very similar to other things. And it depends. It also seems to depend where in the world you submit things from how quickly you get into the store, and it's becoming it becomes a real difficulty.
Yeah, they want to get the throughput of apps in there, but they've also got to make sure that you don't get the spam ones just cashing in on the other developers' program names and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's difficult. I mean, they do some spot checks and things, but I think with the Xbox, if they start doing that, they get so much backlash that it become very difficult.
Yeah.
To manage. So I can see some changes on that whole structure, but equally I don't want them to go the other extreme and where it takes 2 weeks to get your app into the store again. So I think the biggest problem is the quality of the people doing the reviews, and I don't want to cast any aspersions there, but it does seem there's total inconsistency.
Yes. Yeah, I know what you mean. I think I had that sort of. Well, the issue I had was around the two-factor authentication, and the person reviewing the app, when I first submitted it, didn't get that concept.
Yeah.
which is kind of a bit of a stumbling block. But then I think later builds went through okay because the person understood what was going on.
Yeah, yeah, and I've had the same problem on Apple Store. So it's not just it's not a specific Microsoft thing. I've had two people review the same app and come up with completely different conclusions. Um, so it is a tricky one, but
yeah,
I don't quite know how you approach it, but I really would like to see it approached better.
but I think it's great having the one app store, and that story that that they can tell now for developers may mean the difference between developers not. If it gets just a percentage of people say, okay, we'll create a universal app that weren't thinking of doing a Windows Phone or a Windows 8 one app before, then it succeeded. I'm thinking, even non-media apps, maybe the banking apps or something like that. Maybe you want to check your balance on your Xbox. Why not? So a universal app, and then they're out there rather than not bothering at all. I think we'll get some interesting things, and especially with the framework, the UI framework. You could potentially have one app with three different UIs depending on the platform you're on, but one app, and I think that's a great goal. Let's hope it sort of pans out in reality.
Yeah, I'm really excited by it, and I think that most developers are as well.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. Now, I mentioned Media Browser. Actually, I'll give a shout out to Media Browser because the Android version was updated last week. That's camera uploads. But so if you, it's another way of uploading your camera. So you can take pictures and it will automatically upload them to your Media Browser server from your Android device. And the camera uploads is great. I use mine for OneDrive now, so I've got everything on all my photos on OneDrive. But if you want to stick them on your Media Browser server, then you can do that.
Yeah, kind of cool.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but they have got this new Media Browser syncing function for sort of offline syncing of playlists and video categories and things like that. So I think that's just starting to roll out from the server, and I think the Windows version is the first one to get it, and I think the other apps are going to get that soon as well.
Yeah.
Now, going back to the Microsoft Band, since we've had the SDK for the Microsoft Band, there's been a flurry of activity from developers creating it.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. So there's been quite a few apps, so I'll update. So I'll talk about those. But I think I can see why they've got the activity, because I downloaded the SDK, and the SDK is pretty good actually. The documentation is good, but the actual samples themselves are really good. And I've got the sample apps installed on my phone, and there's 4 sample apps, something like that came with it. So, of course, when you run the sample app on your Visual Studio, it copies it to the phone if you want to test it on the phone. That's what I was doing. You can test it in an emulator, but it's not the same. You haven't got the band hooked up to the emulator. So you really need to test it on a phone unless you're going to start sort of simulating things. So, yeah, there's 4 sample apps that come with it. One for personalization, one for the sensors, one for the tiles, and just a general demo app. And the general demo app is actually really good. It shows you how to sort of handle the connections, how to do vibrate, how to change the images and the colors, how to add tiles to the band, and how to read all the sensors. And you've got access to all the sensors that are on there as well. So it's actually the SDK is very good, and some good samples on there. So I can see why some developers have got some good stuff out already. I came up with a great idea that I would write a Windows Phone app that would go to and get the Bing image of the day, and get that as your background for they call it the me tile actually, but it's the background when you actually press the sort of the power button on the band. So when it's not just showing the black and white clock face, and when it's got the image on there. So I thought that'd be quite good. I'd get the Bing image and do that. So I had a go at doing that, and I managed to send the image down and replace all the icons for all the default apps. So the mail app didn't have a mail, and the message app was no longer a message, and the Twitter app was no longer a Twitter. It was all blank spaces. So I did a very good job in doing that.
If you're going to break something thoroughly.
Yeah. And actually, changing the actual tile icons, I couldn't find in the SDK. So I think I found something new. So there's probably even more potential for customization. And I managed to break it so bad I had to do a factory reset for it to be able to resync again. But that's the joy of development. But it's actually quite fairly simple. The SDK and the libraries that they give you already are actually pretty sophisticated. So anyway, as long as you don't break it like me. So we have seen quite a few apps come out. So let me think, which ones have we got? Oh, so one of them, I think we talked about a few weeks ago, was called SendNote, where you can send notes to, or send to band it's called. So where you can, from your phone, send a note to the band, and then there's a notepad app on the band. So it's quite handy if you're, maybe you're going to an address and you're walking down the street and you don't want to keep pulling your phone out to check the address. You can send it to the band and then you can access that note on the band. Or, if you're going to somewhere where they've got a PIN number for the door entry system or something like that, you can send that number to your band and save and get your phone out. So I've been using that app quite a bit, but the developers just, since the SDK's gone live, updated that, and you can now use Cortana for it. So you can say Cortana send to band, and then you can read the text out, and it'll send that to the app. So that was quite a nice little update to the band, or for one of the apps that came with the band. Now the other one was, let's just go back. Oh, what I did as well for all these, because there's quite a few now, I did a video over the weekend that I posted yesterday, sort of video guide of all apps you can get for the Microsoft band. So if you're interested in seeing what you can do with it, you can get that app. Sorry, you can watch that video. Oh, the other one was a MeTiles one that it's called MeTiles, that has a sort of a range of images you can pick from, and they seem to change every day, so you can pick those. Another one was called Theme Sharer, or Band Social it was. And with Band Social, what you can do, you can pick a background image, you can pick all the individual tile colors. So I think there's 4 categories. There's sort of low light, highlight, disabled, enabled, and you can pick individual colors. You can save it to your band, but then you can share it. And currently the receiving side of it isn't enabled. It's an MVP that's developing the, I think it's a C# MVP that's doing the app, but it saves it up to, I think it's to an Azure web service. So you can save your theme, and then somebody else could then access your theme. So like I said, the other side of it's not done yet, so you can't browse the list of themes that have been created by someone else, but you will be able to. So he's got a little theme sharing going on there, which I think is quite good as well. And what were the other changes to the band apps? Oh yeah, the Pimp My Band, which was one of the ones we talked about previously, was one where you can change all the colors and images and things like that. That's just been updated. I need to do the blog post for it, but that is where you can change the language in it now. So you can have, I think it was French, English, German, Italian, which is something I couldn't find that you could do through the band. So now I know they're not available in those countries apart from US English, but at least if you've got one and you want to put it in German, then you can do. So that's a nice little update.
Awesome.
Yes. So I think that was all the changes from the band. So check out the video if you're interested to have a look at some of the third-party apps you can get for the band. There's quite a few out there now. And if you are a developer, have a look at the SDK, because it's pretty straightforward. And if you've got a little good idea, I was thinking of maybe you could use the gyroscopic sensors to some sort of motion gaming, to reaction time or something like that. But a few ideas, but not a lot of time to actually start developing it. Right. Okay. What else do we want to talk about? Oh, I posted the video review of the SX or XS box. Well named. Did you see that, the review of the Android box?
Yes, that looked quite interesting actually.
Yeah, nice little box. And I think the clever thing about this is that they've bundled XBMC, or code is now, into it. So it's a complete system in its own right before you've done anything. But because it's running Android, you can actually install any of the apps from the Google Play Store, because it's got the Google Play Store on it. So you can install Media Browser, you can install Plex, you can install BBC iPlayer, although that didn't work when I tested it. But this box has come from a sort of China development, and there seems to be quite a few of these now coming from China. This sort of, it must be fairly easy to package up these Android sort of set-top boxes based on, I think it was on KitKat.
Right.
So check out that link for that in the show notes if you want to have a look at that.
Yeah, it did look very good, actually. I was quite impressed with that.
Yeah. There's a lot of options now. I mean, I think personally, I like the Roku box best if you want a low-cost media player. It connected up to your TV. I've got the Xbox connected, but the Roku is kind of my favorite device at the moment. But the Android one has got a lot of options. The Miracast didn't work either, which was a bit frustrating. But I'm sure you could probably find a third-party Miracast app in the Google Play Store anyway. So there's a lot you could do with that. Now, as we said at the start of the show, I was very confident last week. Jason keeps mentioning it on Twitter.
And quite rightly so.
Yeah. I don't know why he keeps bringing it up, but I was very confident we'd have a new build of Windows 10. Not last week, the week before last, I think, wasn't it? Last week I was still confident, but we still had no new build of Windows 10. But interesting, as soon as the Apple keynote started, Microsoft did a blog post explaining why there's been no changes. Donald, did you get to read the post?
I didn't actually get a chance to read that. I sort of heard some people summarising it, but I didn't actually read the actual thing itself.
So, effectively, what they were saying is, it's a fairly long post, but what they were saying is, you get the builds when they're ready. And if we told you about when you were getting the builds and we didn't release it, you'd be disappointed. And if we told you and then we released it and then there was a bug in it, you'd be disappointed. So that was kind of the gist of it. So you can read it. You can read it yourself. I'll include a link in the show notes. But the key part of it that I sort of picked out said that it was Gabe. Yes, Gabe Orb that from the Windows Insider program that did the blog post. But he said that if today and by that is the 9th, and we've not set a date for the next build. I have a build in my hand that we produced on Friday. It was validated by our test automation and will go through our internal rigs and then get installed by thousands of people at Microsoft. It is the freshest code with all the newest features and fixes. If it passes all of our evaluations, it could be in your hands late this week or next week. That means you could feasibly get multiple builds out in March rather than just one. And they have more up-to-date code than if we did it the other way. Yes, I know this is pretty big talk considering that it's been 40 days since the last build. And here I am talking about multiple builds per month. I'm sharing our aspirations and what we're building towards. And we want to be working this new way versus the way we used to do it. So kind of contradicting what they're actually doing by saying what their aspirations are. But yeah, I can see what they're saying. They're basically, and they've got a little chart showing it really that they do their internal testing and it's got to pass up to that internal testing, and they don't do it by date because they set a quality threshold. I think that's essentially what they're saying. Although it doesn't really explain why it's been so long since the last build. I mean, what do you think? I mean, I was expecting at least one or two in March, or in February, and then one in March.
Yeah, it does seem a bit odd, but I'd rather they get something which is a bit more stable out to us, I guess, if they're making changes, and maybe a few more features in. But it does seem, I don't know, it's been a long gap. It does seem long gap, but let's see what we get. If we get 3 in March, in the next 2 weeks, well, fine.
Yeah, I don't think they should worry too much about if something does break, because as if you're on the Windows Insider program, you've got the option of going on the fast or the slow ring. If you want the stability, you go on the slow ring. If you want to test the new features first, then you go on the fast ring. You are warned, and if you can't complain too much if it does have issues, because you're not meant to be using it as your daily OS. So, I mean, I'd love to put it on this Surface Pro 3 here, but I'm not doing yet until it's probably a bit further down the line. But this Encore 8, I'm happy to have it as my test victim machine. So I would be happy. Maybe they'll introduce another cadence ring or something like that, weekly updates. So they could do it like some open source projects do, where you can sort of you can have nightly builds, and you take the risk that goes with those.
Yeah.
It just been, we've got a long time between the last release, and I think some of the things like we mentioned previously, like Internet Explorer, which is not really optimized for Windows 10. We'd like to see the new browser in there, the new Spartan browser. So, we want to get that new build out there.
Yeah, and also I think the other thing is that sometimes a big jump can generate more publicity, because you suddenly get new features popping up, whereas an incremental build, you don't tend to notice all these new features, but you suddenly get a lot of features at once. I can see that actually being quite a good thing from Microsoft's point of view, to regenerate the buzz around Windows 10.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, a bit like the January technical preview introduced the consumer features. It did make a bit of a buzz, didn't it, as opposed to sort of the patches that have been released up to that point.
Yeah.
But then in other ways, maybe they want to do the opposite and avoid big publicity and just have it as a steady update.
Yeah, yeah.
But I certainly would like to, as we all would like to see a new build on there.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to see some changes on the tablet side of things, so we'll see how that comes.
Yeah. I'm not sure about the phone. We've not really heard too much about that. We did sort of speculate that it might be a while before we get the next phone update.
Yeah.
And I wonder how they're going to do the updates for these compressed boot images. How they're going to handle that.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about the technique of those. I mean, you're obviously going to need some free space for it, and then you can compress. I mean, there are some tools out there which actually can create compressed boot images from an update, so it's possible anyway. That there's a couple of zip tools which actually do the job. Can't remember off the top of my head what they are, but they've been covered on the links forums. Have covered them quite well. So there's definitely ways of actually doing it to upgrade the compressed boot image, basically by taking it off first and then recreating it afterwards. But it's still an update, so it's a bit convoluted, but it's feasible. But it will need some storage to be able to do it. So I can guess you might be only able to update if you've got an SD card in or something like that.
Yeah, I'd certainly like to see the tablet OS on the 7-inch links that I've got.
Yeah,
and I think that would be ideal. It's a very nice little hardware. Actually, I haven't used it that much recently. I pulled it out this week and been using Windows. Actually, we're going to say Windows 8.1 on a tablet. That actually works quite well if you stay clear of the desktop.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what the tablet version of Windows 10 should do.
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's on the 7-inch, we're going to have the small, the phone and small tablets build anyway. So we're looking more at the phone build. So I don't think we're going to get a phone build for a while by the sounds of things.
No. So maybe we'll get. I'm less confident than I was in the previous weeks.
Well, let's see how it works in reverse. If you're really not confident, then maybe we'll get a build next week.
Yeah, that's why when Jason mentioned it last week, I said I categorically said there won't be a build, and then maybe that will bring one on. So maybe I should say on the record now, it's on the Tuesday we record, there won't be a new build when you listen to this on Thursday.
Yes, I agree with that.
Now, some good news for Windows Phone users. I think sometime last year, middle of last year, Channel 4 announced that they were rebranding and redoing their mobile and catch-up apps. They were called 4OD, I think, currently, or they were called 4OD, but they did announce they were changing that to an all-new thing called All 4. And it seems that they've got on Windows Phone first, because today the app for Windows Phone, the All 4 app, was released, and it's an updated version of the 4OD app, but it's got an all new look and feel with new categories view, A to Z views, catch up by days. But I don't know how this has worked out. But anyway, the Windows Phone was first, because I checked on Android and iOS, and neither apps have been updated yet. Even the Windows 8 version hasn't either. But Windows Phone first, and a very nice looking Windows Phone app.
Yes, indeed. Good job all round, I think.
Yeah, but it actually it's a more Windows Phone looking app than many of Microsoft's new apps with pivots on there and everything.
Yeah, very much so. They followed the old Metro guidelines.
Yeah, there's no hamburgers in sight.
Well, we don't need hamburgers.
But it's interesting that got out on Windows first. So it wouldn't surprise me if maybe tomorrow we start to see Android. And usually the Android certification process is quite faster, and Apple tends to be a bit longer. So maybe that's why. But to Microsoft, they're first anyway.
Excellent.
Yeah, very nice looking app, and you can there's box sets on there and whatever. So if you want, you can get your fill of Channel 4 on there. And, very good looking app, but they of course have got an app on the Xbox already, so maybe these will get rolled into one universal app.
I'm thinking that might be what they go. It does look like it is a universal app, so just reading between the lines. So obviously the current style of universal apps, so they have to have different names for them. I'm quite so a store app. Well, that doesn't even work. I can't work out. A Windows 8.1 universal app.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
that's all I have to call it. A Windows 10 universal app.
Yeah.
So I mean, I suppose officially it's WinRT.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But nice. They've done a good job with that. It's a nice looking app. Right, a couple of dates to finish off. The VLC for Windows Phone was updated, which is a universal app.
Yeah.
But a Windows 8.1 universal app. New player, video player, new media player, I should say, on there. New artist view, and it's actually a nice looking app that works quite well on Windows Phone. The only issue that I've seen, and I don't think it's specific for the app's problem, because other media players have the same issue, is if you download music from the Windows, from the Xbox Music Store through a pass subscription like I've got, it shows up in VLC, and it shows up on other media players on Windows Phone, but obviously it can't play them because they're encrypted. So your own content is an MP3 file, or that's fine. But if you then on Xbox Music say download this album that you don't own, but it downloads it to your phone, effectively it's clicking a cache of it, then they show up on VLC, but it can't play them, and it's a bit sort of frustrating as you go through. So I mean, I know what's local and what isn't, but or what's my own content and what's through the store, but it is a bit frustrating. But no, a nice looking app though. They've done a good job with that, and you've got to really commend VLC for doing an app that works on Windows Phone, on iOS, Android, and everywhere, Mac, everything.
Right.
Yeah, they've done a good job with that. Now, what else? Oh, final one as well is the Sonos controller software has been updated for iOS and Android.
Yeah, and hopefully they're doing it in the background for the Windows Phone universal one.
Yeah. So that's been updated. So I think that's just got the new sort of player built into it. So it's a lot easier to sort of navigate around your content. So that'll come through your Sonos device. So yeah, and please don't write in asking when the Windows Phone version was available. Although you can write in, and we'll send it on a postcard and we'll file it.
Yeah.
And I think that was all the app updates I've seen this week. We have seen a few leaks around, but nothing concrete. So some screenshots and some videos even of the Spartan browser, which I think is looking great. I really just want to be able to play with that now.
Oh, definitely.
It's funny actually, isn't it, that there weren't really that many leaked leaked versions of Windows going around when there were a leaked version of Windows 10 when they were releasing frequent updates, and now the updates have sort of dried up. We're starting to see a few leaks again. There's a demand out there.
Yes, yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Right, so I think that's all the things we're going to talk about this week. Next week, we may be changing the schedule next week, so we won't be recording on next Tuesday evening, we're recording Wednesday evening. So I think you may or may not be back for that, depending on your schedule.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a rush, but I'll try and get back in time.
Yeah. So we may have a guest as well next week. I'm just speaking to a few people, so we may get someone to join us. But you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at IS Dixon. Where are you, Gary?
I'm at Gary with 2 R's WMA on Twitter, and also at Fascinating Tech Magazine. And full stream ahead on our March issue at the moment. And I mentioned our 2-ton review item, and that's arrived, and I'm busy reviewing it. It's quite fun.
So I'll look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I was trying to give out clues every week, so people can guess. It's electrifying.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
And I'll include links for everything in the show notes that we've talked about. And we shall be back next week then. So actually check out some of the videos on our YouTube channel. We've got some more videos. I mentioned the band and some other stuff. I've got some more lined up for us as well. Oh, and I've got I managed to get a good contact at Lumia as well. So we should have some new Lumia reviews coming soon.
Fabulous.
Yes, yeah, that little one. I think it's in the 425.
Yep. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's not, actually I had a play with one of those a couple of weeks back, actually, and I was quite impressed with that.
Yeah.
It is tiny, but it's nice. So hopefully you'll enjoy reviewing that.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. Right. So until then, we'll see you next week.
Okay. Take care.